Welcome in, everybody, to another deep dive into cybersecurity news.
Always fun to be here.
Yeah, today we're looking at March 17th, 2025.
All right.
Some interesting stuff happening today, and as always, we've got our usual blend of, vulnerabilities, new attack vectors, and some cool new research.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we've got a new approach to detecting weaknesses in Rust code, which I think we're both excited about.
Very cool stuff.
Yeah, using LLMs too.
Oh, right. LLMs are just everywhere these days. But first, let's talk about AI.
All right.
It really is becoming a double-edged sword in the cybersecurity world.
It really is. Yeah, like a powerful tool, but also a potential threat. We're seeing it play out in some really interesting ways.
Yeah, definitely. And LLMs are right at the heart of it all.
For sure.
So one of the big stories today is this new tool called Haley-Rust.
Yeah, Haley-Rust. Have you heard about this one?
It sounds so cool.
I don't know, right? So it's using the quirks of LLMs.
Okay.
Like their tendency to hallucinate or invent facts to actually improve vulnerability detection in Rust code.
Wait, so you're saying they're using the AI's mistakes to make it better at finding real security flaws?
Exactly. It's like training an AI to spot real threats by showing it a bunch of fake ones.
That's wild.
I know, right? So they prompt the LLM to always assume there's a vulnerability, even in safe code, and they use these hallucinated reports as training data.
So basically they're training it to recognize false alarms so it can better pinpoint the real ones.
You got it. And the results are pretty amazing, actually.
Yeah.
Haley-Rust is getting a much higher F1 score,
Okay.
which is a key metric for measuring accuracy compared to other methods.
That's a huge win for developers.
Totally. And what's even more exciting is that it might work for other programming languages too, not just Rust.
So this could have a ripple effect across the entire software development landscape.
Potentially.
Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely something to watch.
Okay, so that's the good side of LLMs, but we talked about the potential threats too.
Right. We can't forget about those.
So what's the dark side of this LLM story?
Well, while Haley-Rust is a great example of LLMs being used for good new research, shows they can also be a security risk.
Okay.
Specifically, LLM-powered operating system agents.
Like those AI assistants that can interact with your computer.
Exactly.
Okay.
Those are vulnerable to something called malicious image patches.
Malicious image patches, what are those?
So basically, these are images that are designed to trigger harmful actions when the AI agent takes a screenshot.
Hold on, you're saying attackers can hijack these AI assistants just by using a specially designed image?
Yeah, it's kind of scary when you think about it. Like, imagine your AI assistant taking a screenshot to help you with something, and suddenly it's been redirected to a malicious website or something.
And all because of a hidden patch in an image.
Right, and these patches can be hidden in plain sight, like in your desktop background or something.
So you wouldn't even know it's there.
Exactly.
That's pretty unsettling.
Yeah, it really makes you think about the security implications of having AI assistants with visual access to our devices.
Right? Like, it's cool and convenient, but it also opens up a whole new avenue for attacks.
Definitely. We need to be really careful about security as AI becomes more integrated into our lives.
Absolutely, well said. Okay, so we've talked about AI, but it's not just AI we need to worry about.
True.
Web application firewalls or WAF are under attack too.
VEFs are so important, though.
I know, right? They're like the first line of defense for so many websites and applications.
Yeah, they're crucial for protecting against malicious traffic.
So how are attackers getting past them?
It's pretty clever, actually. They're exploiting inconsistencies in how different systems parse data.
Parse data.
Yeah, basically how they interpret and understand information.
Okay.
It's a technique called waffle day.
Waffled.
Yeah. So attackers are manipulating parts of web requests, like headers and body segments, to create these discrepancies.
So they're crafting these requests to look harmless to one system, but they carry malicious intent that's understood by another system.
It's like smuggling something past security by disguising it as something ordinary.
That's sneaky.
Very sneaky.
Okay, but is there any good news here?
There is actually. Researchers have developed a new tool called HTTP Normalizer.
Okay.
It acts as a strict enforcer of the rules of HTTP communication.
Interesting.
Yeah, it can be used as a proxy sitting between the web application and the outside world, making sure that any incoming requests are properly formatted and don't contain any of those sneaky tricks.
So it's like having a super meticulous bouncer at the door, checking everyone's ID and making sure they're not trying to sneak anything past security.
Exactly. A great analogy.
It just goes to show how security measures need to constantly evolve to stay ahead of the attackers.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, so we've talked about AI and booby offs, but let's shift gears to another exciting development in AI-powered security: this time on our side.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Researchers have developed a new AI model for phishing detection called PhishSense-1B.
Phishing detection, that's a big one.
It is. Phishing attacks are a constant threat, and they're getting more sophisticated all the time.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up.
So what makes this PhishSense-1B so effective?
Well, it's achieving some really impressive accuracy rates.
Like, how accurate are we talking?
Over 97% on a custom data set and over 70% on real-world phishing emails.
Wow, that's way better than I expected.
It's significantly better than previous models, including those based on BERT, which was a big deal in its time.
So what's the secret sauce behind this PhishSense-1B?
Well, it's based on the Llama Guard 3.1b model,
Okay.
but it's been fine-tuned using some advanced techniques.
Like what kind of techniques?
One is called low-rank adaptation, or LORI.
LORI.
Yeah, which allows for efficient model adaptation.
Okay.
And the other is guard reasoner.
Guard reasoner.
Yeah, which helps the model explain its decisions.
So it brings transparency to AI security systems.
Exactly. You can actually ask the AI why it thinks an email is phishing, and it can break down its reasoning.
That's incredible. So you're not just blindly trusting the AI, you can actually understand how it's making its decisions.
Right. Transparency is crucial when it comes to AI, especially in security.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like PhishSense-1B could really make a difference in reducing the number of phishing attacks.
I think so, too. It has a lot of potential.
Okay, so while we're on the topic of LLMs and security,
Yeah.
there's another study that caught my eye. This one looked at how well different open source LLMs could detect misinformation in prompts.
Misinformation, that's a tough one.
It's so hard to tell what's true and what's not these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what did this study find?
Well, some models like Llama 3.1 were pretty good at detecting misinformation,
Huh?
but others struggled. And here's a weird thing.
Okay.
Some models did better when the misinformation was presented less confidently.
Really? That's so counterintuitive.
We know, right? It's almost like they're thinking, well, if they're not even sure about it, maybe it's worth a second look.
That's fascinating. It shows how these different LLMs have their own unique quirks and personalities almost.
Exactly. And it highlights the fact that there's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to LLMs and security.
Right? You need to carefully evaluate and select the right model for the specific task.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay,
It definitely adds another layer of complexity to the challenge.
it really highlights the need for security solutions that fit seamlessly into developers' existing processes, rather than creating extra work for them.
Absolutely. Security should be integrated, not an afterthought.
Well said. Okay, let's shift gears now from the digital world to the physical,
All right.
specifically hardware security and a new approach to mitigating the infamous rowhammer attack.
Rowhammer, that's a tough one.
It is attackers can manipulate data in RAM by rapidly accessing adjacent memory rows.
Yeah, and potentially flipping bits and gaining unauthorized access.
Right, and a lot of the existing mitigation techniques have drawbacks. They either compromise security or they slow down performance.
Yeah, it's a tricky balance.
But there's some promising news. A new approach called QPR uses priority queues for mitigation.
QPR, that sounds interesting. Tell me more.
Well, it builds on the Puro activation counting framework that's already in DDR5 and future DRAM standards.
Okay.
And it uses a combination of reactive and proactive mitigation strategies.
Interesting. So it's kind of like a hybrid approach.
Exactly. And it offers a high level of security without sacrificing performance.
That's the holy grail, right?
It is. So QPR key prioritizes which DRAM rows need protection based on how often they're accessed, making sure the most vulnerable areas are always shielded.
That's smart.
And the results are pretty impressive.
Okay, how impressive are we talking?
QPR key can mitigate rowhammer attacks with thresholds as low as 71,
Wow.
and it causes a performance slowdown of less than 1% for typical workloads.
That's amazing.
It really shows how important it is to have robust security mechanisms built into the hardware itself.
We can't just rely on software patches and workarounds.
Exactly. Hardware-level security is becoming more and more crucial as attackers get more sophisticated.
Agreed. Okay, so moving on from hardware.
Let's talk about something that's been making waves in the 3D graphics world.
Ooh, 3D graphics. I'm listening.
3D Gaussian splatting, or 3DGS.
3DGS.
Yeah, it's a new technique for creating these amazingly realistic 3D assets.
Oh, wow. I've heard about this. It's supposed to be incredible.
It is, but with any new technology comes new security challenges.
Right? Of course. Like, how do you protect the copyright of these digital creations?
Exactly. That's where watermarking comes in.
When?
There's a new framework called GuardSplat,
Guard splat.
specifically designed for 3DGS watermarking.
Interesting. So how does it work?
Well, it uses a technique called SH-aware embedding.
SHOR
Yeah,
embedding.
so they embed the watermark directly into the spherical harmonic features of the 3D model.
So it's like they're weaving the watermark into the very structure of the object.
Exactly, making it super difficult to remove or tamper with.
That's clever.
And guardsplat has been shown to be resistant to all sorts of distortions. So the watermark stays put even if the 3D asset is modified.
That's reassuring.
It shows how security research is constantly adapting to new technologies and finding ways to protect intellectual property in these new domains.
It's an exciting time to be in cybersecurity, that's for sure.
It really is okay, ready for something truly mind-bending.
Hit me with it.
Fully homomorphic encryption, or FHE.
FHE, that's the one that lets you do computations on encrypted data without ever decrypting it,
So you
right?
got it's like something out of science fiction.
It really is. The implications for privacy are huge.
I know, right? I'm still trying to wrap my head around how it even works.
It's pretty wild. Think of it like this. You can send a sealed box to a lab. They can run tests on the contents without ever opening it, and you still get the results.
That's a great analogy.
So that's FHE.
That's insane. It could revolutionize so many fields, like secure data analysis, private machine learning, confidential blockchain transactions. The possibilities are endless.
It's a game changer, for sure.
And to make things even better, there's a new beginner's textbook available on arXiv to help demystify FHE for a wider audience.
That's awesome.
It is. SHE is a complex topic, but this textbook makes it much more accessible, which is crucial because data privacy is becoming more and more important in our digital world.
Absolutely. We need everyone to understand these technologies if we're going to build a more secure and private future.
I completely agree.
So yeah, FHE, definitely one to watch.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground today, from AI-powered security to 3D watermarking, and even the mind-bending world of FHE.
It's been a whirlwind tour of the latest developments in cybersecurity.
It has, and it
Yeah.
just goes to show that this field is constantly evolving,
New threats, new solutions, it's always changing.
which is why we do this deep dive every day to keep you up to date on the most important developments.
So you can stay informed and stay ahead of the curve?
Exactly, because knowledge is power, especially in the world of cybersecurity.
Couldn't agree more.
So until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and as always, stay secure.
Absolutely. Knowledge is key in this field, for sure.
All right, so we've talked about AI and waves and phishing detection, but let's circle back to the topic of misinformation for a moment.
Yeah, misinformation, that's a huge challenge these days.
It really is. I mean, with all the information flying around online, it's harder than ever to separate fact from fiction.
It's like a constant battle against the noise.
Exactly. And we touched on that study earlier about how well different open source LLMs could detect misinformation in prompts.
Right. And the results were kind of all over the place. Some models were really good at it, while others were easily fooled.
Yeah, it's interesting how those LLMs each have their own strengths and weaknesses.
Definitely, like, some of them were really good at picking up on subtle cues and inconsistencies in the language, but others were more susceptible to persuasive language, even if it was misleading or outright false.
It's almost like they're getting tricked by the rhetoric.
Yeah, in a way, and that raises some serious concerns about how reliable these models can be when it comes to filtering out misinformation.
Especially as they become more integrated into our daily lives and decision-making processes.
Exactly. We need to be really careful about which models we trust and for what purposes.
Right. It's all about choosing the right tool for the job and understanding its limitations.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, so let's move on to another important topic that often gets overlooked: software signing.
Oh, yeah, software signing, that's a big one.
It is, and there's a really interesting study that looked into why developers are or aren't adopting software signing using the Sigstore ecosystem as a case study.
Right, and they found that it's not just about user interface issues or a lack of awareness.
No, it's much more nuanced than that.
Yeah, like they talked to experienced security practitioners, and it turns out that tool selection and adoption are influenced by a whole web of factors.
Such a
Well, things like integration with existing workflows, the specific tools that developers are already using, and how those choices evolve over time.
So it's not just about convincing developers to start using software signing. It's about making sure they stick with it, even as their tools and workflows change.
Exactly. It's an ongoing process.
Which makes it even more challenging to promote security best practices if they disrupt those established workflows.
Definitely, it's a constant balancing act between security and productivity.
For sure. And it highlights the need for security solutions that are designed to fit seamlessly into those existing development processes rather than adding extra steps or complexity.
Absolutely. Security should be integrated, not an afterthought.
Well said.
Yeah.
All right, let's switch gears now from the digital to the physical world.
Okay, that's good.
Let's talk about hardware security specifically. A new approach to mitigating the infamous Rowhammer attack.
Rowhammer's still a problem, huh?
Unfortunately, yeah, it's one of those vulnerabilities that just keeps coming back.
And it's a nasty one, too. Attackers can potentially flip bits in DRAM and gain access to sensitive data.
Right, and a lot of the existing mitigation techniques either compromise security or they have a negative impact on performance.
It's always a trade-off, right?
It is, but there's some good news on this front. Researchers have developed a new approach called QPAC that uses priority queues for mitigation.
QPRX. Interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, it builds on that per-row activation counting framework that's already present in DDR5 and future DRAM standards. And it uses a really clever combination of reactive and proactive mitigation strategies.
So kind of like a hybrid approach.
Exactly, and it offers a high level of security without sacrificing performance.
That's impressive.
It is so QPRC basically figures out which DRAM rows need the most protection based on how often they're accessed, and it prioritizes those.
Making sure the most vulnerable areas are always shielded.
Right, and the results are pretty amazing.
Yeah.
QPRI2 can mitigate Rowhammer attacks with thresholds as low as 71.
Wow, that's pretty low.
And it only causes a performance slowdown of less than 1% for typical workloads.
That's really good.
It shows that we can achieve both security and performance if we design smart mitigation techniques.
And that hardware level security is more important than ever.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on now to a topic that's been making waves in the world of 3D graphics.
All right, hit me with it.
3D Gaussian splatting, or 3DGS.
3DGS. Yeah, I've heard about this. It's a new technique for creating incredibly realistic 3D assets, right?
You got it. It's pretty groundbreaking stuff.
But of course, with any new technology comes new security challenges.
Of course, like how do you protect the copyright of these amazing digital creations?
Exactly. You don't want people just copying and distributing them without permission.
And that's where watermarking comes in.
Watermarking. Ah, I see where you're going with this.
Researchers have developed a new framework called GuardSplat, specifically for 3DGS watermarking.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, it uses a technique called SH-aware embedding.
SH-aware embedding.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. They embed the watermark directly into the spherical harmonic features of the 3D model.
So it's like they're hiding the watermark within the very structure of the object itself.
Exactly, making it really tough to remove or tamper with.
That's a smart approach.
And GuardSplat has been tested against all sorts of distortions and manipulations, and the watermark holds up really well.
So it's a robust solution.
It is, and it shows how security researchers are constantly innovating and coming up with new ways to protect intellectual property in these emerging technological landscapes.
It's a fascinating field to be in, that's for sure. Always something new and exciting happening.
Absolutely. Okay, ready for something truly mind-blowing.
Always bring on the mind-blowing stuff.
Fully homomorphic encryption.
FHE. Yes, the holy grail of cryptography.
It's pretty amazing technology, being able to perform computations on encrypted data without ever decrypting it.
I know it sounds like magic, but it's real, and it has the potential to completely revolutionize how we handle sensitive data.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around how it works.
It's pretty complex, but essentially you can think of it like this. You can send a sealed box to a lab. They can perform all sorts of tests and analysis on the contents without ever opening the box, and you still get the results.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
I think I'm starting to get it.
And the implications are huge for things like secure data analysis, private machine learning, confidential blockchain transactions, you name it.
It could really change the game in so many industries.
Absolutely. And to make things even better, there's now a beginner's textbook available on arXiv that explains the concepts of FHE in a way that's more accessible to a wider audience.
That's awesome. FHE is such a complex topic, but this textbook could really help to demystify it for people who aren't cryptography experts.
Exactly. And that's so important because as we move towards a more data-driven world, we need everyone to understand the importance of data privacy and the technologies that can help protect it.
I completely agree.
It's really amazing to see how far we've come in such a short time.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling when you think about it. Just a few years ago, FHE was this super obscure concept, and now we're talking about it in our daily news roundup.
It just shows how fast this field is moving.
It really does.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we wrap up today's deep dive, let's take a step back and reflect on what we've learned.
Sounds good.
I think one of the biggest takeaways for me is the growing role of AI in cybersecurity.
Yeah, definitely. AI is everywhere these days, and it's having a huge impact on both offense and defense.
Exactly. We saw how Heliorust is using LLMs to improve vulnerability detection,
Uh-huh.
and how FishSense 1B is using AI to fight phishing attacks.
Oh, right. And then on the flip side, we have those malicious image patches that can target LLM-powered agents.
It's like AI is this powerful new weapon that both sides are trying to master.
It's a real arms race, and it's only going to get more intense as AI continues to evolve.
Absolutely. So it's more important than ever to stay informed about these developments and to understand the potential risks and benefits of AI in cybersecurity.
Couldn't agree more.
Now, beyond AI, what else stood out to you from today's news?
Well, I'm really intrigued by the progress being made in hardware security, specifically with that new QPRAC approach to mitigating rowhammer attacks.
Yeah, QPRC is pretty impressive. Being able to provide that level of protection with minimal performance impact is a big deal,
It shows that hardware-level security is just as important as software security.
especially as we become more reliant on complex hardware systems
Yeah.
for everything from our personal devices to critical infrastructure.
Exactly. And speaking of critical infrastructure, let's not forget about the importance of protecting intellectual property.
With new content creation techniques like 3D Gaussian splatting emerging, it's crucial to have robust watermarking solutions like GuardSplat to safeguard those digital assets.
Absolutely. Creators need to be able to protect their work, and GuardSplat provides a really effective way to do that.
And it's just one example of how security research is constantly adapting to new technologies and finding ways to stay ahead of the curve.
It's a never-ending challenge, but it's also what makes this field so exciting.
I agree. There's always something new to learn and new problems to solve.
Which is why we do this deep dive every day to keep you up to date on the latest developments in cybersecurity.
So you can stay informed and make smart decisions about your own security.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, knowledge is power.
Absolutely. So until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and as always, stay secure.